Giving up is not in the blood, sir. It's not in the blood.
There's a scene in 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, that tells me everything I need to know about the disaster that happened on July 30th on Broad Peak that killed 10 people. The scene takes place on K2. Every team on the mountain sat in base camp defeated, dejected. There had been avalanches, there had been deaths, and they were essentially turning to go home. World-class mountaineers, teams everywhere just saying that you have to listen to the mountain calls the shots. Then Nims shows up.
Tonight we drink, tomorrow we plan.
Instead of matching that mood, he throws a party. Within days, he's rallied a demoralized camp full of scared, defeated climbers back onto the fixed lines, headed for the summit. Nims didn't fail, he always won. That's the scene, and that's the key to what happened on Broad Peak. Most teams knew that the mountain was saying no. It had been loaded with snow, and they were cutting through diagonally upwards into a perfect avalanche slope. All the conditions said, do not go past this point, and they went anyway. What would you do? 57 successful ascents of 8,000-meter peaks. Nims was a superhero. As it would happen, he took with him 6 other guides or extremely experienced high-altitude climbers, and only 3 could be considered clients. It's an intoxicating point of view. That same instinct that made Nims a world-famous mountain climber in his documentary 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, appeared that day on Broad Peak. All the teams had gone home. They didn't like the conditions. There was too much snow. Nims, I guess, just wanted the mountain to wink one more time, and it caught him, and he's gone now, as are 9 other climbers. The world is in shock. One of the greatest mountaineers, certainly of our era, perhaps of all time, is now gone. Are there any lessons that we can learn from this? And are there some questions that we need to be asking while the media is flooded with people essentially turning Nims into a martyred saint who could do no wrong? That's where we get into problems. Let's just get into the particulars of what took place on July 30th on Broad Peak and what might have caused this avalanche. Technically speaking, 10 climbers left base camp and they were heading up to Camp 3, and then there was GPS data on trackers that placed Nims Purja at about 59 meters at 9:38 a.m. And then at 10:18 a.m., his tracker showed him at about 58.91 meters. That's a staggering drop of 768 vertical meters, over 2,500 feet. That is a long distance to go. This avalanche was filmed from a couple of different angles, and it wasn't for about 10 hours that anybody on the mountain was aware that something terribly wrong had taken place. This is because, generally speaking, base camp was empty. There was just some staff there who were not waiting for a base camp radio call. Everybody was either on the mountain, and many teams had left the mountain to go home. So 10 hours transpired before somebody realized something was wrong. Angela Benavides does an exceptional job recapping the events that led up to the avalanche on July 30th, and essentially it was 10 climbers in 4 teams, 9:30 a.m. Pakistan time. They were climbing between Camp 2 up to Camp 3, cutting diagonally up into what is a perfect avalanche slope. Snow had fallen for days leading up to that, leading to the question of many other teams on the mountain that it was not in the right condition to climb, and they turned to go home. This story about the avalanche on Broad Peak on July 30th is really resonating in so many ways for me, especially as I look forward to the future to do a film project on Mount Everest in the spring of 2027. It's a significant project about the garbage and human waste problems on the mountain. And so here's the thing about people like me, outdoor people who are going out and beating on their body repeatedly, day after day, week after week, over the years. We're great at pushing through discomfort. But that same thing is what makes us terrible at booking a simple checkup with our doctor. I'll baby my knee before I call a doctor. So this is where ZocDoc comes in, the sponsor of today's video. ZocDoc is free. You search doctors who are actually in your network. You read real reviews from real patients. You see real openings, and you book it right there. No calls, no waiting on hold, and appointments are made usually inside of 24 to 72 hours, sometimes on the same day. Over 150,000 providers, 200 plus specialties, all 50 states. I found a doctor, got in that week, and had a plan in faster than I can ever remember. You don't need to be climbing a mountain to deserve that. You just need 5 minutes with ZocDoc. Click the link in the description below, ZocDoc.com/Everest Mystery. Your future self will thank you. ZocDoc.com/Everest Mystery, linked in the description below, and find a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc, the right doctor right now. As I reported in my recent Patreon post, which I'll put a link to below in the description, Ian Overton, a friend of Everest historian Alan Arnett, he was on Broad Peak with his climbing partner, Hungarian David Klein. Overton had said to Alan Arnett he hadn't even attempted the mountain as far back as July 19th. It was that bad. Klein had tried and turned back just below the summit, and they had both ended their expedition and left for home at the time of the avalanche. So given the circumstances, we have to ask why, when so many experienced mountain climbers had turned and gone home, why was Nims and 6 other guides, along with 3 clients, going up the mountain when all conditions said, do not go up there? Nims wrote on an X post on the 27th of July, and he wrote, "This was never the plan. Initially, the plan was to climb just G2, Gasherbrum 2, but just before setting off for Pakistan," he says, "I ran the numbers on my 8,000-meter summits. That's when it hit me. If I tick off Broad Peak whilst I'm here, only one remains, Cho Oyu. Then I become the first person in history to climb all 14 8,000ers twice without oxygen." These decisions were made based on ambition, perhaps you could say greed or pride. Nothing has stopped me before, and it won't stop me again. And can you blame the other climbers caught up into the unparalleled successes of Nims and his charisma and his ability to go through even the worst conditions? You could see why people said yes, but the 3 clients had almost no choice. It's, as I said again in my Patreon post, what could go wrong, Mom? I'm climbing behind Nimsdai. Anybody who has ever wondered what it's like to be in an avalanche, I can tell you I've been in 2, and they are absolutely terrifying. They pale in comparison size-wise to what this avalanche was on Broad Peak, but I can tell you that there is nothing gentle or smooth about it. They are violent. They throw you under the snow, and it's like swimming in wet concrete, And if you don't have your hands over your mouth, like happened to me in one of them in Alaska, the snow pushes into your mouth and chokes you. The snow, it's called a snow plug, it gags you. And if you are unable to get yourself above the snow in seconds after the avalanche stops, that snow will freeze like concrete, because when the snow is moving quickly, it's creating a friction and essentially on a microscopic level melting the snow granules and the molecules. It freezes and you're stuck under the snow. That's why recovery of people who are caught underneath an avalanche that stopped is so absolutely difficult, and why transceivers and that ping locators are so vital in ski areas and the like.
And as they were moving across the next section is where it was avalanched, and it shot into this col here, this roundy col, and then shot all the ways down here and right out to the small chute below, and that's where we were passing. They say there's 11 people, and some of the body's tracking system is just over here.
This particular avalanche was so violent that one of the climbers, I will just let you do the research for other, or some of the names. There was a climber whose body is not yet found, but only the leg was found at the bottom of the mountain. It's absolutely heartbreaking to try to understand the terror that they must have felt in the moments leading up to them going beyond and dying. Our only hope is that we can think that it was quick and that there was not a lot of struggle while they went down the mountain, that they died quickly, because it was 10 hours before anybody was aware that there was a problem on the mountain. Certainly, they probably were gone within minutes, let alone hours. I've spent years of my life, my career was built around the idea of filming documentaries on mountain climbing expeditions. So I'm part of the machine that took the mountains and turned it into content, albeit decades before YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I had barely even knew what email was when I went on my first climbing expedition, to Pakistan in 1996 on Gasherbrum 2. So to the viewer on the other side of the screen, what we do when we're creating these documentaries is create a narrative of sorts, try to put the protagonist or the antagonist in a certain light. And to those people on the other side of the screen watching, there's no doubt that they would look at somebody like Nims and think, he's superhuman, he's above it all, he can't fail. He's had some close calls, but he is just beyond what any normal human being is. And it's true. Probably one of the strongest climbers of our era, just beyond measure. And so it did appear that the rules of mountaineering didn't apply to him, and therein 10 people are up the slope on Broad Peak. But an indifferent mountain doesn't consider the right time or the wrong time to unleash its fury. You might have climbed all 14 8,000 meter peaks in less than 7 months, or maybe you were on your first 8,000 meter peak like Mallory Geis, the American woman who only a year before was running a Pilates studio. Her Facebook page, she shows off having bought her brand new boots, doing a dance, excited for her new identity of being a high altitude peak chaser. The mountain simply doesn't care. The mountain unleashes its fury whenever it wants to, but when men and women go into a zone that is on a precarious slope, it can trigger the fury of a mountain, and that's what it appears happened on Broad Peak on July 30th. Nims is a human being too, and when people deny that, or when people might watch this video and be angry with me, by saying that he was above the law is really doing him an injustice. That's not what a legacy is. A real legacy is understanding someone's weaknesses as well as their strengths. Nims had many, many strengths in the mountains. We know that he had a fair share of critics. I reported in my Patreon post that I had done a video a few years ago about the New York Times, who did an article about 2 women who had accused Nimsdai of sexual assault. What will become of that? Did they have a grudge against him? I think that you should read that article before you make a determination, and that's not what this video is about. But what I am saying is we can't put people on pedestals without getting burned ourselves. It's a diluted way to live our lives, and if we embrace the humanness of Nims, we can thus respect and appreciate the 9 other individuals. All of their names are in the description below, and learn from the lesson of Broad Peak. God rest the souls of the 10 climbers who died on Broad Peak, and may their families and loved ones find comfort in the beautiful memories of the past and from others offering them assistance and comfort as well. What do you think? Do you think that there's a lesson to be learned from Broad Peak? Am I right? Am I wrong? I'd love to see your comments in the section below. Take the time to share your thoughts. Join in on the conversation. It's an important conversation to have, and I think it will only make mountain climbing a little better if we have that conversation. And if you're still watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, would you take a moment and subscribe, please, and take a look in the members section for exclusive content that is for members only. I also have a section over on patreon.com. There's a free section over there, including my recent post that I spoke about. And in the meantime, do a good deed. Don't ask for anything in return, and make the world a better place, one tiny step at a time. Peace be with you.